Welcome to General Electric's course on preventing violence in the workplace. This course will help you comply with General Electric's workplace violence guidelines. By recognizing the early warning signs of a potentially violent person or situation and identifying preventive and corrective measures on how to handle a threatening situation. Workplace violence is any conduct either on company premises while conducting company business or while otherwise representing the company that is intended to cause physical harm to a person or property or otherwise intended to have a negative impact on the safety and/or security interests of the company. This conduct can occur while you are conducting company business or otherwise representing the company. This conduct can occur on any company premise, which includes any place where GE work is conducted, and any property owned, leased, or otherwise controlled or owned by the company. This includes areas off-site, where GE business is conducted, including but not limited to home offices and GE employees representing GE. A threat is defined as any action taken or intent communicated to another individual that would arouse fear, hostility, intimidation, or the apprehension of harm in another GE-protected person for his or her safety, or for the safety of his or her family, friends, co-workers, clients, employer, or property. A GE-protected person can include any employee, visitor, vendor, contractor, or other person assigned to work on company premises, as well as people engaging in GE business off-site. Specific examples of prohibited behaviors: fighting or engaging in any violent physical contact. For example, hitting, punching, slapping, shoving, kicking, biting, etc. Stalking, harassing, threatening, or intimidating others with violence. Engaging in arson, vandalism, acts of sabotage, or other activity which causes damage to the property of GE or of a protected person. Suggesting that engaging in acts of violence is an appropriate manner in which to solve workplace disputes. Making offensive comments regarding violent events and/or behaviors, or any other act which could be considered inappropriate and poses a danger or threat of danger or violence in the workplace. You can identify red flags by utilizing some of the following identifiers: sudden withdrawal from current circle of friends or acquaintances, sudden decrease in productivity, overreaction to situations, poor impulse control, threats of sabotage against property of employer, actual threats or intimidation of others, immediate or delayed violent reaction to discipline or termination, discussing of stalking or harassing others, talk of suicide or unusual interest in suicide, feelings of extreme desperation, marital discord, financial distress, etc. As an employee of GE, you have responsibilities to help maintain a safe work environment. You should not engage in the previously mentioned behaviors that are considered workplace violence. If necessary, seek confidential professional intervention or assistance to avoid engaging in conduct that violates the workplace violence guidelines. Remember to cooperate during investigation of threats or acts of violence. Lastly, be sure to report any threat or act of violence in the workplace. It is everyone's responsibility to maintain a safe work environment. As an employee, you should neither engage in workplace violence nor ignore signs or potential workplace violence. In addition to the responsibilities shared by all employees regarding workplace violence and workplace safety, supervisors have additional obligations. A supervisor must clearly communicate that threats and violent behavior will not be tolerated. A supervisor must also be aware of potential issues and promptly address behavioral issues. It is important to create an atmosphere of openness in which employees feel comfortable reporting or discussing potential issues. Be sure to report issues to Human Resources and Security, if available, immediately. By this point, you should have a pretty good idea of what behaviors and actions constitute workplace violence. When you report workplace violence issues, be sure to follow these tips. Written threats should be preserved with as little disruption as possible to the physical evidence and provided to either on-site security or your workplace violence point of contact. In other words, try to keep the threat as you found it. Try not to damage it or alter it in any way. Then make sure you involve the appropriate security contacts. Oral threats should be reconstructed verbatim, if possible, as soon as possible after the threat as possible. Threats through voicemail should be saved, and security or your workplace violence point of contact should be notified. Note the time and location of any incidents. And be sure to get the names of any persons involved in or witness to the incident. Nothing is too insignificant to report. If your gut feeling tells you something is wrong, you should report it. Do not ever think you may be overreacting or that it can wait until tomorrow. When you report an incident, the business will activate the Workplace Violence Threat Response Team, which will investigate the presented concerns. It is important to remember that reporting an incident does not cause trouble. In fact, reporting an incident may be the first step in preventing a violent situation. In many cases of workplace violence, sufficient boundaries were not established early enough with the individuals making threats. You can help proactively avoid workplace violence situations by reporting incidents to your business-specific security contacts. By taking appropriate steps, you may be preventing a coworker from injuring himself or herself, and others from violent acts, not to mention ensuring your own safety. It is important to remember that if an emergency or volatile situation arises, you must take immediate action to protect yourself and others. Never try to intervene or deal with a volatile situation yourself. Contact site security or your workplace violence point of contact if appropriate. If necessary, notify the police and stay in contact with them until help arrives. In order to report an incident, be sure to contact one of the following: your local site security, your workplace violence point of contact, your human resource manager, immediate supervisor or manager, or ombudsperson. Additionally, you can contact business security and crisis management hotline if available. Please contact your business or site manager for additional information. Thank you for your participation in this course on workplace violence prevention. Now that we have gone through the various aspects of workplace violence, you will be able to comply with General Electric's workplace violence guidelines. You have been provided with the tools to recognize warning signs of workplace violence and the tools to identify preventive steps to be taken if a threatening situation arises. Remember that you can contact Business Security and Crisis Management Hotline if available. You should record any reporting information and keep it in a safe place. At this time, you may be asked to proceed to an assessment, testing the knowledge you have gained here today.